Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this third edition of our 10-year, 10-minute live interviews with the LPEA. It's a special day today, not only because it's beautiful weather, but because we have the honor to host Nicolas Mackel, who I'm sure many of you have heard of or watched on TV or on LinkedIn or on YouTube or on Twitter, because he's quite a personality to represent us at the level of financial services worldwide. But I want to welcome Nicolas, who we work with closely at LPEA because he's the CEO of Luxembourg for Finance. Hi, Nicolas.
Hi, Roger. I'm very fine. Yourself?
So we all know you very well as a distinguished diplomat with a long career, having lived across 4 continents, having studied law, and since 5 years leading the financial marketplace in Luxembourg. You're one of the first organizations that I heard of when I moved here 4 and a bit years ago, but I'm sure it's always useful to remind us what is your job about as the CEO of LFF, and what does LFF do, and what is keeping you busy in these extraordinary times that we're going through, Nicolas. We have 10 minutes together. We will then open to a bit of a Q&A that our viewers can send us live. And if you're doing very well, we hope to host you again when everything is clearer for everybody. But welcome for this time.
Good. Well, thank you for having me. You asked about what Luxembourg for Finance does and how we fit in this special circumstances here. Luxembourg for Finance is the development agency for Luxembourg's financial services industry. We have been created 12 years ago as a public-private partnership by the Ministry of Finance and the financial services associations, among which, of course, also LPEA. Our role as a development agency is to help explore new markets in a geographic sense and in a thematic sense, help bring new financial institutions to Luxembourg, and to project towards the outside world what is happening in Luxembourg through events we organize or through our communication tools. That is what we do normally. Now, of course, as it will not have escaped you, the world has been turned a little bit upside down over the course of the last couple of weeks, and our activity obviously also has been impacted. We had to postpone quite a number of events. We're still working on that and trying to understand when it is we can organize them. These are events in Luxembourg, in Switzerland, in China, in Canada, all around the world, basically. Also, our communication, normally we are very much active on promoting Luxembourg. That is obviously something we have completely muted for the moment. Really, the mot d'ordre, if I may say so, is to communicate more on issues linked to COVID-19 and how it impacts the industry. Everybody is still trying to make sense of what is happening to us, and we are trying to help in that. And then obviously, well, as a business development agency, which we are not active on that for the moment, very difficult, but we are trying to understand what the environment will be that we will need at the end of this tunnel, and how we will need to position Luxembourg in this new environment, what it is we will be able to do, how we will be able to do that. It's of course very early days. We are not in a position to give you any sort of answers, because very honestly, we don't have them. But we are trying to really get a sense of what the world will look like once we see the lifting of the confinement. Sorry, can't hear you.
Yeah, this doesn't mean you're not doing anything meanwhile. So you have different segments of financial services. Are there parts that require more attention than others? I mean, if we quote the stock exchange or fund management, banks, insurance, of course, private equity.
Yeah, I think we cover the whole of the financial services industry of Luxembourg, and work in very close contact with all the different associations that cater more to the individual sectors, like LPEA for private equity, or ABBL for banking, ALFI for the overall fund world, ACA for the insurance world, and so on. We work very closely, as you mentioned, with the stock exchange, and we're all trying to make sense of what exactly is happening in the market. The problem is that the figures are not yet quite available, so it's difficult to make sense of it all.
So we shouldn't be listening too much to all the forecasts and models we receive left, right, and center from asset managers and media that are
I think many of them are actually estimates. I really think we should all cool it down. As far as I understand, the CSSF will be in a position to give the exact figures in about 2 weeks' time, latest, and I think that will be a solid basis for discussions. What we have learned in this crisis is really to listen to the science, to the numbers, rather than just speculation and estimation. So I would rather caution to wait for the proper numbers, and then we get a good figure. And all the articles we keep reading about estimates or other figures, well, I tend to put them to a side. Obviously, what we do know is that the stock markets have basically lost 25–30% of their values. That is a fact, and that there are some redemptions, but overall still relatively under control.
So the time is running, but I still have time to ask you 2 questions, and before opening to Q&A. Speaking of your focus, what about green finance? Was it a fad of the good days and now everybody's going to go back the old ways, or do you think on the contrary?
No, absolutely not. I am a firm believer in the necessity to pivot towards sustainable finance. This is not a fad. I think there again, science is very, very clear on the need to reduce global warming. That is not gone. That has not been replaced or superseded by COVID-19. There is a real crisis hiding behind the current crisis, and that is the global warming crisis. What we are experiencing now is probably a foretaste of much bigger catastrophes that can await us in a few years if we do not take action. And I think what is very interesting is to see also the role that the financial services industry could take in helping to mitigate the effects of global warming. Well, exactly the same sort of logic prevails when it comes to now helping the world get out of the economic crisis that COVID-19 will not have failed to bring about us.
But what is the message that, so you are under the tutelage, if I may say, of the Ministry of Finance. What is the key message that is emerging from the current crisis for you to relay to us and to our audience in terms of priorities, or the resilience of Luxembourg, or the fact that the green finance is driving the agenda?
Well, you addressed there several different topics, and I think all of them are, of course, priorities. I think that is what we are currently experiencing, is that we have to cater to several different priorities at the same time. The main message would be that we need to be cool-headed, maintain our nerves, so that with a bit of optimism and all working together, all at the local level in Luxembourg, at the industry level, between countries, first of all in the European Union, but then also as an international community. This is a global crisis, and we will only solve it through global action. If you look at the way markets have been hit, this is not something where one economy can be saved while all the others are going down the drain. This
solidarity,
is
coordination.
Exactly. Solidarity, everything. We really need to work hand in hand, all of us together, between the different actors in the economy. You see that, for instance, the banks are very active currently to help firms, SMEs and larger firms find solutions in terms of financing that will help them survive. That is the order of the day. We are still at the phase where we need to help those that are touched first by this to survive.
And it's
then
happening.
We will need to address other issues that this crisis brings about for the economic world.
And it's happening as we speak?
It is happening as we speak, of course, yes.
That's excellent. So it's already 10 minutes, but we have time for a couple of Q&As. And one question that is quite close to the LPEA's heart in Luxembourg is, do you think that there will be an initiative coming out of Luxembourg as a country and an ecosystem to drive more gender equality and diversity in financial services?
Well, if everybody did as Luxembourg for Finance does, the question wouldn't...
What are you doing?
So we are recruiting exclusively on competence, with the result that we have 12 girls and 6 boys in our team.
So how do you do this? That we would love to replicate this example across the member firms.
Strictly on competence. No, obviously, I think the fact is that there are not enough women in leadership positions, and that is something that we all need to consider. Now, I'm not sure whether compulsory action or quotas or whatever is the right solution. I think this is something that everybody needs to factor in when they take decisions on recruiting, also at the highest level. And this is being done. If you look at it, I think it is being addressed, but if you want to do it in a sustainable way, you also need to give it a little bit of time.
Sure. Well, let's brainstorm together with the key associations and come up with the plan. This is the time. Mm-hmm. Nicolas, other question. Employment is, of course, in everybody's minds. Are there any speculations, rumors, or plans to reduce staffs in our financial service industry? Do you hear firms already coming up with this, or are we preserving that as much as possible?
I think the government has stepped in very, very credibly and forcefully to support, number one, employment by supporting financially firms that had to shut down during the confinement. This is, I think, one of the big priorities, and rightly so. What we need is to make sure that people do not lose their jobs. We do not know yet what exactly the magnitude of this, of the economic side of the crisis will be. It could very well become nasty. It could very well cost a lot of people their jobs. But I think that if we all pull together, and I was very heartened to read today of one of the big employers in Luxembourg, a consulting firm that's the CEO announced that they would not
let anyone go,
let anyone go, and not ask for support from the government. That is very good. I think Luxembourg's financial industry, as the government itself, was relatively solidly established. The fundamentals were quite good. Let's see how long this confinement lasts. I think it very much hinges on that. It's, after all, a question also of liquidity. Yep. The government, I think, has made every effort to help and support that. Let's see. But we do see, I read a Financial Times article this weekend that was talking about 25% unemployment being expected in Ireland, for instance. Yep. That, of course, would be terrible. I haven't read anything yet for Luxembourg. I'm pretty sure it will not be in that sort of range, but let us see. Let us see. It's far too early to give any sort of clear indication on that.
Sure. Nicolas, we have room and time for one more question, unless someone really rushes to write their questions in the Q&A. I know you issued a document for 2025. So if we elevate ourselves and look deep into the future, what is LFF going to be doing in terms of reflecting Luxembourg's financial service reality then?
Yeah, we published, we did everything to be able to publish our 2025 ambitions in January, and everything was ready and we published them. And what I told my team over the last 2 weeks is that we probably have to rework them. Fundamentally, they are still valid. There were quite a number of ambitions in it, all turning around how to shape a sustainable future, sustainable not only in the environmental or ecological sense, but sustainable also in the sense of resilience. That does come across to anybody who reads our brochure very clearly. Now, I think what happened with the current crisis will make us have to revisit our publication and adapt it to the new environment. And the lessons we have to draw from that are not 100% clear yet, but we know that we will have to revise it.
So you are a father of 3, if I remember correctly. And so I'm asked, what do you think will change also from a personal perspective after all this is over?
Quite a lot. I don't know if the discovery I made of all these video conferencing tools and so on will help me
travel
less and thus spend more time with my 3 kids. That would be great. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to a little bit less jet lag, but still I don't think that too many of those trips will not take place, probably for the next couple of months. But after that, it's like when you had lost a few kilos due to some imposed diet, and then you go back to your normal life. After some time, you are back at where you used to be, and you didn't even realize it.
But maybe you start from a new base, huh? No, I think it's important to keep cool. We got your message, and to follow, whatever comes out of your side for the industry at large. And maybe once the dust settles a bit, we should have you back on the program if you are interested.
Happy to do so. Thank you.
Thanks, Nicolas, and take care and enjoy the family then.
Yes, thank you.
Bye. Thank you, everybody. Bye. And see you on Thursday with Luc Frieden, by the way.